Back to the book, they're talking about Custer. They could not all be killed. Not lucky Custer and those 5 gallant troops who rolled with him. Why had he abandoned us? In those 3 bloody hours before darkness had saved us, we had no less than 12 men killed and 3 times that number wounded. He's actually saying, man, where was Custer? Here we were getting crushed on the battlefield, and Custer's not there to support us. Where'd he go? Now, during the night, it rains a little bit, and finally the sun starts to come up. And just as the sun starts to come up and starts getting light, back to the book, Jones said something about taking off his overcoat. He started to roll on his side so that he could get his arms and shoulders out without exposing himself to fire. Suddenly, I heard him cry out. He'd been shot straight through the heart. A minute or two later, another bullet from the hilltop tore into the hickory butt of my rifle, splitting it squarely in 2. I was plenty mad because my Army carbine wouldn't let me return the compliment. So he just got shot in the rifle stock. Actually happened to one of my guys in Ramadi. Oh, okay. One of my guys got his rifle stock got blown up by an RPG. I see him come falling out of a sniper position, and he's got his sling. His weapon is in 2 pieces. I'm thinking, oh, lucky to be alive. Yeah. Along about this time, our 30 or 40 wounded men began crying out for water. H Troop held the hill here on the southwest. There was a draw that ran down the west side of the hill to the river. It was rough and exposed, and it looked like a dead cinch that anyone who tried to work his way down that draw to the river would be killed. Indians concealed in the bushes across the river were firing up at us, and they had every foot of this draw and riverbank covered. But we had to do something for those men who were up wounded crying for water. Finally, Benteen called for volunteers. I think there were 17 of us all together who stepped forward. He detailed 4 of us from H, who were extra good marksmen, to take up an exposed position on the brow of the hill facing the river. We were to stand up and not only draw the fire of the Indians below, but we were to pump as much lead as we could into the bushes where the Indians were hiding, while the water party hurried down to the draw, got their buckets and pots and canteens filled, and then made their way back. So we got a little cover and move happening, obviously. It just happened that the 4 of us who were posted on the hill were all German boys: Geiger, Meckling, Voigt, and myself. None of us 4 were wounded, although we stood exposed on that ridge for more than 20 minutes, and they threw plenty of lead at us. Several of the water party, however, were badly wounded, although we kept the steady fire into the bushes where the Indians were hiding. Each of us was given a Congressional Medal of Honor. You don't think about that. You don't think about it. You're actually going to need water. You run out of water. You're going to get guys dehydrated. They're going to die. So now you're going to risk people's lives to go get water. Mm-hmm. Benteen had been walking up and down the line, urging men to hold fast, not to waste their fire, and to keep cool. I remember saying to him, "Colonel, you better get down, sir, or you'll get killed." "Don't worry about me," he answered grimly. "I'm all right." He sure lived a charmed life that day. But things looked bad, and finally Benteen hurried to the north side of the lines and asked Major Reno for reinforcements. He made it clear that the Indians were about to charge his line, and that if they were able to sweep over it, the whole outfit would be destroyed. Reno told him to take as much of M Troop as he could gather. Those men certainly looked good to us. Soon after they came up, Captain Benteen led the charge. Yelling and firing, we went at the double quick, and the Indians broke and ran. When we had cleaned them out for 100 yards ahead of us, we hustled back to our holes. Once again, we settled back to the business of getting fired at, with men hit at intervals, and with the poor horses and mules taking a terrible beating in their hollow. It must have been long about this time that Benteen called me to attention and made me sergeant. We had 1 sergeant, 2 men killed, and 12 wounded in H Troop alone. So, once again, we see some aggressive, and we also see some focus of forces, right? We see some prioritize and execute. Hey, we're going to get overrun. Our biggest problem right now is we're going to get overrun. So you know what? Hey, Major Reno, give me a bunch of guys, and we're going to go do an aggressive assault and take care of this number 1 priority. So let's focus our forces on that. Here we go. And that's what they did. They got aggressive and got after it.